Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Sushma Talegaonkar from Department of Pharmaceutics, Jamia Hamdard. Today we are going to discuss about the module Pharmaceutical Evaluation of the Topicals and the Aerosol Dosage Form from the paper Pharmaceutical and Biological Evaluation. Then under this module we will cover the following headings. First we will discuss what are the classification of the topical dosage form. Then we usually study what are the ideal characteristic of the topical dosage form as well as the aerosol dosage form. Then we also discuss what are the different components of the aerosol dosage form. Then to understand the evaluation of the topicals and the aerosol and to highlight the importance of the topical and the aerosol drug delivery system in pharma industry. The topicals. The topical dosage forms are mostly the semi-solid dosage form which are applied onto the skin or the mucous membrane for the local or the systemic therapeutic effects. They exhibit the plastic rheological behavior. They are generally used as a protectant, emollients, astringent and the lubricants. They are basically utilized for localized drug action. But nowadays, the topical dosage form, they can also be used for systemic delivery also. And the term, the transdermal, we generally used because in the case of transdermal dosage form also, we are generally apply the transdermal patch or the nanoemulsion gel on the skin, and we design the formulation in a way that the drug is going inside into the deeper layer and from there it is going into the blood. So the transdermal is also comes under the heading of topical dosage form. So basically we can say the topical dosage form, they can be used for localized as well as the systemic drug delivery. Now let us see what is the classification of the topical dosage form. As we have already discussed, it is a very broad term. Now see what type of the dosage form is generally they come under this topical heading. So first one is the semi-solid. As we all know, mostly the topical dosage form, they are in the semi-solid state. So under the semi-solid state, the ointment, different creams, gels, paste, suppositories, poultices, plasters, they usually come. Solid dosage form, the dusting powder is a very common example under the topical dosage form. Then the liquid forms, various solutions, lotions, emulsions. Nowadays the nano emulsions, nano gel, they are come under the liquid dosage form. And the last one is the gaseous dosage form, and the best example is aerosol. So basically the spray pattern of the aerosol is playing a very important role, and nowadays maximum analgesic and the anti-inflammatory type of the dosage form, they are coming under this aerosol category. So it is very patient friendly also. The rate of release of the medicament from the topical dosage form. Again, it is one of the most important tests in topical dosage form, because until unless the drug is not coming out from the ointment, gel or the any preparation, it is no use. So for the how much quantity of the drug is releasing from this dosage form, for that there are the two methods by which we can check the how much quantity of the drug is coming out from the preparation. Actually, this rate of release of the medicament I am going to discuss by taking the example of antibiotic in the topical preparation, because we are keeping in mind that most of the topical dosage form, they are applied on skin, and antibacterial antibiotic preparation, they are very common. So in this case, if the preparation is containing antibiotic, so we generally take these two methods. First is for that we usually take the by placing a small amount of the medicament or the small amount of the ointment which is containing the antibiotic on the nutrient agar medium in a petri dish and incubated. After that, after incubation, maybe for 1 day or 2 days, we usually calculate the zone of inhibition. So if we observe the zone of inhibition, that shows that amount of the drug is coming out from the ointment, and zone of inhibition, we can plot a graph between the zone of inhibition and time. So that indicates how much amount of the drug is coming out from the ointment. Second test is another method is to fill the test tube with the saline or the serum or any media, and then smearing the internal surface of the test tube with a layer of ointment, which we are going to be tested or for how much quantity of the drug is releasing from the ointment. The amount of the drug is estimated by the suitable method like UV spectrophotometer after completion of the test. So that indicate how much amount of the drug is coming out from the ointment, and the remaining ointment we usually go for the testing of the drug content. So difference in these two readings shows how much amount of the antibiotic has been released from the ointment. Now, the second test is the irritation effect. As we all know that the topical preparations we usually applied on the skin, maybe in the eye, maybe on the skin, or maybe on the any surface of the body. So definitely, the ideal characteristic, as we have already discussed, it should be free from the irritation effect. Means any that particular preparation should not containing any such ingredient which cause the irritation. So at the end of the development of the formulation, we usually check whether this formulation showing any irritation or not. So for that, we usually perform the DRESS test. Is generally an official test in the pharma industry. You usually perform for this skin irritation test. Under this test, what we usually do, we take the 12 healthy albino rats, out of which the 6 with the abraded skin and 6 with the intact skin, and we apply a patch containing a definite amount of the drug on this particular albino rat skin. Now, what is the next step is the patches are removed after 24 hours from that particular area, and that particular area is generally evaluated for any erythema or edema formation. The reaction is again scored at the end of 72 hours and calculate the average of the two readings. Now, type of semi-solids. Before starting the evaluation of semi-solid and the aerosol dosage form, first take a look what are the different type of the semi-solid dosage form they are existing in the pharmaceutical field. The first one is the ointment, creams, pastes, jellies or gels, suppositories, poultices, plasters, rigid foams, glycerogelatin suppositories. Before starting the evaluation, it is also important we should know what are the ideal properties of semi-solid dosage form. When we know the ideal properties, then only we can evaluate the semi-solid dosage form accordingly and efficiently. Physical properties. The semi-solid preparations should have a smooth texture. They should elegant in appearance, non-dehydrating, free from the gritty particles. They should be non-greasy and non-staining, and they should be non-hygroscopic in the nature. Another important property is physiological properties of semi-solid dosage form. According to the physiological point of view, all the semi-solid preparation should be non-irritating. They do not alter membrane or the skin functioning. They should be miscible with the skin secretions, and they should have low sensitization index. Another properties which are again important from semi-solid dosage form point of view, that is the application properties. So for the application properties, all the semi-solid dosage form, they should be easy to apply with efficient drug release. They should have a high aqueous washability. Evaluation of semi-solid dosage form. First one is content uniformity of the drug, penetration test, rate of permeation of the medicament, irritation effect, consistency test, spreadability test, and extrudability test. Now, content uniformity and the penetration test. For the content uniformity, the suitable assay procedure for a specific drug is used. In the content uniformity, we usually take a 1 gram of the semi-solid preparation, and we usually follow any official method for determination of the drug content in the 1 gram of the semi-solid preparation. So the preparation should contain a 99.9% of the drug in 1 gram of the preparation. Second one is penetration test. In penetration test, at the name itself indicating how much amount of the drug is going to be penetrate from the semi-solid dosage form to the skin. Since the topical we are semi-solid preparations, they are generally applied on the skin. So it is very, very important to determine what is the penetrability of the preparation. A known quantity of the ointment is rubbed on the skin surface for a specific time interval. The amount which is unabsorbed is weighed. The difference in the weights represents the quantity of the drug absorbed on the skin. For in vitro skin permeation test, for this test, we generally use the French diffusion cell. French diffusion cell consists of two compartments. One is the donor and another one is the receptor. Human cadaver or the mouse skin is placed in between these two compartments. The sample which we want to study for the permeation is usually kept in donor compartment, and from the donor compartment it will generally transport through the skin and then the drug will come into the receptor compartment. At definite time intervals, we usually take the sample from the receptor compartment and we check the amount of the drug in that sample, and we usually plot a graph between the time and the drug content. So that shows how much amount of the drug is coming from the formulation through the skin, and how much amount of the drug is going into the skin. The rheological parameter. The rheology is another important parameter in case of liquids as well as in the semi-solid preparations, or altogether we can say the topical preparation. So the rheology, as we all know, it is a resistant to flow. So if the particular formulation is having a very poor rheological parameter, then it is not we cannot consider it for a marketing or for the commercialization. So ideal behavior means the flow of the formulation from the container should be ideal. It should not be very fast and it should not be very too slow. So rheological measurements, they are generally it is a generally a test which is very useful to evaluate the ease of pourability to squeezes from a tube, maintaining the product shape in a jar. Viscosity is usually measured by either the viscometer or the rheometer. So viscometers, they are generally the viscometer is basically generally used for determination of the viscosity of the simple Newtonian liquids. But when we are preparing this gel or the ointments or the cream, then we will opt for this rheometer. So rheometers, basically they are the Brookfield rheometer in the pharma industry, Anton Par rheometer, and they are all the cone this cone and plate type of the viscometer we generally use for the determination of the viscosity. Another one is the sensitivity test. This test is generally done by patch test, and we this particular test is we have already discussed in the irritation test also. So patch test we usually perform in two conditions: open and very open, and the closed condition. So closed condition is basically known as an occluded condition, where we usually trap the moisture. So we usually see the effect how this formulation is going to affect in open and the closed condition. So according to that, we can govern we can give the instruction to the patient how you are going to apply this particular formulation on the skin. And after application of this patch, so after the application of this patch, we usually observe it for the 72 hours, and after 72 hours we observe that particular area, whether it is occluded or non-occluded, for the any erythema or for any sensitivity reaction. And if we find any reddish or any blemishes or any scratches on that particular area, we generally make it the formulation is very sensitive, and we can reassess, or we can remodify, or we can make some changes in the formula, and then we again test it for the sensitivity testing. Now the irritation test, if we are applying any semi-solid dosage form on the skin, they should be non-irritating. So in order to check whether they are irritating or non-irritating, we usually perform the Drey's eye irritation test. A known amount of the test material is placed in one eye of each of 6 albino rats. The other eye remains untreated, serving as a control. The eyes are not washed after instillation and are examined at 24, 48 and 72 hours for ocular reaction. The test is considered positive if ulceration or opacity of the cornea or inflammation of the iris, swelling of the conjunctiva occurs. A substance is an eye irritant if 4 of 6 rabbits score positive, and it is considered a non-irritant if none or only one of the 6 animals exhibits the irritation. Now, another important test for the semi-solid preparation is consistency test. The consistency test is also known as a firmness or the thickness test, and it is generally determined by a penetrometer. The diagram is showing a structure or this figure of the penetrometer. It is a measurement of the depths in tenths of millimeter to which a slender penetrant such as a cone or a needle falls into a semi-solid substance under the defined conditions of sample size, penetrant weight, geometry, and time. The softer the sample is, then the deeper the penetrant will sink into the sample, and thus the higher the penetration number will be. The next test is spreadability test. As the name indicating, the spreadability means when we are applying the semi-solid dosage form, how much or how far it is going to be spread and how much efforts we have to put for that the spreading of that particular formulation on the skin. So if the spreadability is very high, it shows a very high pressure is required to spread that particular cream or the gel on the particular area. So a spreadability apparatus is generally used, which consists of two glass slides out of which one is movable in nature. A given quantity of ointment is placed between the two slides of apparatus. The force is applied to the movable slide and the distance travelled is recorded. The graph between applied force and the distance travelled is plotted, which represents the spreadability. The next test is extrudability test for evaluation of semi-solid dosage form. Extrudability test indicates how much amount of the semi-solid dosage form is coming out from the container. We take the example of ointment. If how much amount of the pressure we are applying on the tube and how much quantity of the ointment is coming out of that tube is generally known as the extrudability test. Means how much amount of cream or the gel or ointment or the paste is coming out from the container. So after application of the pressure, it should not come in a large quantity, and it should not, in another way, it should not coming out, or it should, maybe it will expel only the air. So it indicates the preparation is not filled up properly and there are some air spaces are present, and that's why when we are applying the pressure on the container, no ointment or proper content or the proper quantity of the formulation is not coming out. So this is another very, from the marketing point of view or from the patient compliance point of view, it is a very important parameter. Suitability apparatus is shown in this figure, and this apparatus is used where the uncapped tube of the ointment is placed below the plunger of the apparatus. This plunger, the force is required to extrude the ointment from the tube, gives the extrudability. Nowadays, the digital and the automatic apparatus is generally used for this purpose. So, the not very large amount of the force is required, and it should not be when you are pressing a very little bit and a large quantity of the ointment should come out from the container. So, it should be balanced. A proper force is required. Some optimum value is required for that extrudability. Net content test, one of the most important tests under the performance test. The net content can be determined by calculating the difference in the weight before and after emptying the contents of the can. For this, the tiered cans placed on the filling lines are reweighed, and then difference in the weight is equal to the net content. In destructive method, opening the containers and removing as much as of the product is possible. Evaluation of aerosol dosage form. Since the aerosol, they are also considered as a topical dosage form, but nowadays the aerosol, they can be used for internal purpose also. Here, aerosols are generally defined as those systems or the products that depends on the capability of liquefied or the compressed gas to dispense the active ingredients into a finally dispersed spray or semi-solid or a foam from the container. The aerosol, they are generally divided into the following types. They are topical aerosol dosage form, they can be nasal also, and they can be oral aerosol dosage forms. Now, the evaluation parameter of aerosol. The aerosol evaluation parameters, they are divided into the four categories. The first one is flammability and combustibility. Second one is physicochemical properties. Third one is the performance parameter. And the last one is the biological characterization or biological evaluation parameter. Now, under the flammability and combustibility, we generally perform the two tests. First is the flash point and second one is the flash projection test. Under the physicochemical property, we usually perform the density determination, vapor pressure determination, moisture content, and identification of propellants. Under the performance test, how this aerosol they are going to be performed. Under the performance test, we are generally perform the following test. The first one is aerosol wall discharge rate. Second one is spray testing and their pattern. Third one is doses with the metered walls. Fourth one is the net contents. Fifth one is the foam stability. And last one is the particle size. Under the biological characterization, we usually perform the biological testing and second one is the therapeutic activity. Third one is the toxicity determination and the fourth one is the stability of formulation. Now first, we are taking the flammability and combustibility. The flash point. The apparatus used for the determination is called a tag open apparatus. The apparatus usually, this apparatus is generally used for determination of the flash point. The procedure of the testing is the product under the test is first chilled to a temperature of 25 degree Fahrenheit and transferred to the test apparatus. The liquid is allowed to increase slowly in the temperature and the temperature at which the vapor will ignite is noted as a flash point. Second test is the flame projection test. The flash projection test, under this, the principle says because we are using the propellant in aerosol preparation and we all know the propellant is highly inflammable. So from this flame projection test, we usually determine what is the flammability of the aerosol dosage form. So under this test, the aerosol product is sprayed for 4 seconds into a flame of the burner. The flame is extended whose exact length is measured with a ruler indicating the effect of an aerosol on extension of an open flame. So in the laboratory, we usually take a burner, we on the burner and we usually take first this length of the flame before spraying the preparation. So we usually note down the length of the flame. Then after that, we usually spray this aerosol dosage form for the 4 seconds near to the on that flame and then we see how much projection or how much increment in the flame length. So we again determine the length increment in the flame and we minus the first reading from the second reading which usually gives how much length projection was occurred. If it is more than 5 centimeter then it is generally is considered to be highly flammable. Now, the physicochemical characterization, then from the marketing point of view, from the commercialization point of view, it is another important parameter for the evaluation of the aerosol dosage form. Under this heading, we determine the vapor pressure of the aerosol dosage form and it can be determined by puncturing device. Density determination we usually perform by using the hydrometer or by using the pycnometer. Moisture content of the aerosol dosage form is generally done with the help of Karl Fischer method or gas chromatography method. identification of the aerosol dosage form, especially the propellant which we use preparation, it is generally done by the gas chromatography or by infrared spectroscopy. Vapor pressure. The vapor pressure is measured with the help of pressure gauge or can puncturing devices for the accurate measurement. Density. The density can be measured by the hydrometer or by a pycnometer. The diagram is showing pycnometer and density bottle, and the density is generally determined with respect to the water. So first we usually take a weight of this density bottle or pycnometer with the water at the room temperature. Then we second reading, we take the density bottle, we filled up with the aerosol formulation, we again take a second reading. And third is the weight of the empty density bottle. So we usually, the weight of the aerosol formulation is divided by the weight of water is will give density of the aerosol preparation. The moisture content. The method used for determining the moisture content are Carl Fisher method or gas chromatography method. Another physicochemical property is identification of the propellant, because propellant is the heart of aerosol dosage form. So we should know the exact quantity of the propellant, and whether the propellant is in a purified state we have used, it can be determined by their identification. Shows ki pure propellant we have used in the preparation, and identification of the propellant is generally we usually perform by the infrared spectroscopy or by the gas chromatography. So FTIR, they generally use the different bands in graph, and similarly in the gas chromatography we usually observe the different type of the bands which indicate the particular groups of the which is present in that particular propellant. Now the performance test is again a very important test, whether the designed aerosol dosage form they are performing well or not, that can be determined by the performance test. This performance test usually containing the following tests. The first one is aerosol wall discharge rate. This aerosol wall discharge rate test, in which we usually determine how much quantity of the formulation is coming out from the aerosol container after pressing the wall, and whether that particular quantity is containing a sufficient amount of the drug or not. That we usually determine by this aerosol wall discharge rate. So the change in the weight per time dispensed in termed as the discharge rate and is expressed as grams per second. In this test, what we usually do, first we are taking the weight of the container which is containing aerosol preparation. So this is the first reading. Now after this is the first reading, then we will spray for a few seconds, like for 1 second or for 2 seconds. The valve we usually press and we are making the spray for 2 seconds. And then after spraying a particular time, we again take a weight of the container. So the valve discharge rate we usually calculate by reducing the for 2 seconds the weight of the container was 190. So the rate of discharge is equal to 200 minus 190 divided by 2. This will give the grams per second rate of the aerosol dosage form. Another important test is the spray bottle. After spraying, what will be the pattern of the spray on a particular surface? So the method is based on the impingement of the spray on the piece of the paper that has treated with the dye-talc mixture. The particles strike the paper, causing the dye to go in the solution, and it's absorbed on the paper. The spray patterns are then observed by comparing the results. So the diagram is showing the various pattern of the spray pattern for the aerosol dosage form, and that spray pattern is again depending on what type of the valve you have used in the aerosol container. The another test under the performance test is dosage form with the metered valves. The method involves the determination of the reproducibility by the assay technique. The second method involves the determination of the amount of medication or the reproducibility by accurately weighing the filled container, followed by a dispensing of the several doses. The difference in the weight after the reweighing divided by the number of the doses dispensed gives the average dose. Now the biological testing. Under the biological testing, we perform the therapeutic activity test. Under this therapeutic activity, for the inhalation aerosol, it depends on the particle size. For the topical aerosol, they are generally applied to the test areas and the absorption of the therapeutic ingredient is determined. Toxicity. The toxicity for the inhalation aerosol, exposing the test animals to the vapor sprayed from the aerosol container. And for the topical aerosol, irritation and the chilling effects are determined. The thermistor probe having a recording thermometers are used to indicate the skin temperature when an aerosol is sprayed onto the skin. The change in the skin temperature indicates the toxicity of the aerosol dosage form. Now the stability testing, it is again one of the most important evaluation parameter, and it is generally in case of aerosol, it is generally performed on concentrate, that is a product, maybe emulsion, suspension or the simple solution. It is applied on the propellant also, and it is applied on the containers because they are the pressurized dosage form. So the container should also be very sturdy and the stable, and the valve assembly, which is the heart of the aerosol dosage form. Particle size determination. This is again one of the most important parameter in the evaluation of aerosol dosage form. Since mostly the aerosol dosage form is generally used on the topical preparation. So the particle size is playing a very important role. But we can say not only in the topical, the aerosol dosage form, when we are using it internally, the particle size will play a very important role because the basic principle is smaller the particle, better the absorption. But if we are using this aerosol dosage form on the topical, the particle size should, or the aerosol dosage form should be free from the particle or the gritty particles. So the test is very important. And for the particle size determination, we generally use the apparatus which is called the cascade impactor. The principle of the cascade impactor involves that the smaller particles reach the velocity stage at a high velocity and vice versa for the large particles. Principle of this particular cascade impactor, the basis on which it generally act or on working principle or it generally works. So the stream of the particle projected through a series of the nozzle and glass slides at a high velocity. Larger particles are impacted on low velocity stage and smaller particles, they are generally impacted on the high velocity stage. Second one is the light scattering decay. The principle of this method is light scattering decay is the change in the light intensity is measured which is proportional to the particle size. As the aerosol settles under the turbulent condition, the changes in the light of a spindle beam is measured. So if the particle size is bigger, the intensity change will be higher. If the particle is small, the intensity of the light is going to be, the change in the light intensity will be very small. So the student, let us summarize what we have learned in this module. The first thing is aerosols and the topical dosage forms are important drug delivery system exhibiting its own characteristics. The aerosols are very useful for the delivery of the potent medicine, whereas the topicals are important for the local drug delivery. The evaluation tests are important to perform to ensure that the product meets the standard for the quality. And all tests are to be performed equally important because every test is unique and is specific for each attribute of the quality. Thank you.